Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, it's time for Below Grade Level. Watch out, we're right behind you.
Hello and welcome to Below Grade Level, the show where we take the books that we read as children and read them as adults and ruin them. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Eaton, and with me as always on this episode are Chris Zaleski and Bekah Eaton. This is the last episode of legacy content for now. We are going to be finishing Goosebumps number 3, Monster Blood, on this episode, and tune in next time for something brand new that we haven't recorded yet, but we will soon, and it's going to be good. I don't even know what it is. I just know it's going to be good because we have way too much fun doing this podcast. On this episode, we are finishing the last third of Goosebumps number 3, Monster Blood. Our guest on this episode is our good friend Kelly Fuller. Right? Kelly Fuller? Right, Kelly? I'm speaking directly to Kelly right now because Kelly got married to our other friend Alex Hayes, and I'm like 99.9% sure she didn't change her last name. I think. I don't know the last time I even looked at Facebook. Ah, fuck. Kelly, what's your name? Kelly, what's your name? Anyway, Kelly's our guest on this episode, and she's awesome, and we all have a lot of fun reading Monster Blood. Let's recap what happened last time. On part 2 of reading Monster Blood, Trigger, Evan's dog, ate the monster blood and doubled in size because that's what the monster blood does. The monster blood starts expanding and can't fit in the can anymore, and Evan freaks out. And I think those are basically, the highlights. Here, if you have been listening at this point, you know, not a lot happens in some of these books. Long stretches of time go by where you're like, so what happened? I guess nothing. There are sometimes entire chapters that are built up as fake outs, where you think a thing is happening, and then then you find out oh no, it was the dog. It was a coat in the closet. Thought it was a ghost, but it wasn't. We dedicated 40 pages to it, but it was a fake ghost. It wasn't real. And then in the last chapter, people die, deaths happen. So anyway, let's find out what happens on Monster Blood at the very end. I think where we last left Evan, he was being ambushed by the Bamer twins, who, if I recall correctly, are 2 gigantic children. 2 real fucking asshole bullies. Again, content warning. I think we're still doing it on this episode. I'm not sure. But we have been doing a deaf person voice. Me and Chris, specifically. Once again, not Bekah, because first of all, Bekah doesn't do voices. Second of all, she, even at the, while we were doing this a couple of years ago, she was above us. She was definitely, I know even in the recording, she's like, oh God, what are you doing? Don't do that. Don't do it. And we're like, haha, it's funny. It's not funny. So, apologies if you have heard, if you've listened to the last 2 episodes, you heard my apology, but I'm going to apologize again. It's a bad call. And, it's a regret, which I usually don't have those. I like to live life moment by moment and not ever look back. Unless I can grow as a person, which in this case I'm like, oof, don't do that one again, you idiots. So go ahead and take a listen to this. We have a prop on this episode which makes it really good. If you remember, we have used a whoopee cushion before. Sometimes we use a slide whistle. And we have another prop this time, which I completely forgot about because we threw it away eventually. I think it got kind of gross. It's amazing, and we have fun with it. And I think you're gonna have some fun listening to it. So anyway, without further ado, let's take a listen to the end of Goosebumps number 3, Monster Blood. Take it away, us. We came good.
Wow.
Just now.
Collectively.
I always do. We came through on our promise to buy some Monster Blood and have it on the podcast. So what we have is some gack. Some green gack.
Did you guys have this as a child?
I did not.
No,
I was not allowed to.
Jonathan didn't have it. Did you have
gorgeous green gelatin substance from your childhood.
Did you have gack?
I wasn't allowed.
Oh my God. I'm the only one
You're
that's
the only
had gack
one.
before.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you. It smells
exactly
the same as my childhood.
I did
makes
smell
me
it.
really happy.
Jonathan showed it to me earlier, and I just went, it smells like childhood.
Yeah, and I said that's what Bekah said.
It does. I keep smelling it,
yeah,
and it's probably really
it
weird.
smells like it. Ugh.
Because, yeah, no, as soon as you
smells
touch
like
it, you're
it
like, why is
feels.
it wet?
Yeah.
I know.
And it
it's,
feels, yeah.
it's slippy.
This is my favorite thing. This is what it sounds like. That is disgusting.
Like, I want to throw it at a wall in the worst way just to hear the noise it makes.
This is what it sounds like. Ugh.
Slam it down on the table.
No, I don't want to. This is a nice table.
Slam it down on a coaster.
Oh, it's so splurky.
So now we have our own monster blood.
And it's got this awesome container that when you shove it in there.
Sounds like a little queef machine.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm
So-
just a queef machine. Queef.
So whoopee cushion, rest in peace, but you live on through death.
Yeah. Ah.
Oh.
Oh.
Man, I hated that whoopee cushion, but I kind of miss it. I know I
It's so
complained
great.
about it a
You
lot,
hated it at the time.
but I miss it now.
It added so much
You
to
did
the
that thing that
experience.
my mom always says that she does, and like every 10th time we would use the whoopee cushion, the first 9 times you would look really annoyed that we were making the fart noise, and then like every 10th time you'd be like, oh, that's kind of funny, a little bit good.
All right, so the last time we left,
Monster Blood,
and our main character Evan.
Yeah.
He was just ambushed by the Bamer twins.
These 2 giant boys
who have hilarious
who
voices.
are straight up dicks. Like,
Yeah, no, like,
they're fucking assholes.
their dad touches them,
Well,
either
and,
in
like,
a good way or a bad way. Like,
They do shit that's like, it sounds illegal.
they got issues.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down a tiny bit.
All right, so we start on page 82, chapter 17 of Monster Blood. The brothers stepped out of the shadows of the hedge. Their short blonde hair caught the late afternoon sunlight. They were both grinning gleefully. Evan stood frozen in place, staring from one to the other. No one said a word. One of the Bamers grabbed the bucket from Evan's hand and tossed it to the ground. The bucket hit with a heavy thud, and its thick green contents oozed onto the grass, making disgusting sucking sounds.
Worth it?
Hey! Evan cried, breaking the tense silence. He didn't have a chance to say more. The other twin punched him hard in the stomach.
Jesus.
Evan felt the pain radiate through his body. The punch took his breath away. He gasped for air.
He didn't see the next punch. It landed on his cheek just below his right eye.
Jesus.
He howled in pain and his hands flailed the air helplessly. Both brothers were hitting him now. And then one of them gave Evan's shoulders a hard shove as he went sprawling onto the cool, damp grass. The pain swept over him, blanketing him, followed by a wave of nausea. He closed his eyes, gasping noisily, waiting for the sharp ache in his stomach to fade. The ground seemed to tilt. He reached out and grabbed it and held on tightly so he wouldn't fall off. When he finally managed to raise his head, Andy was standing over him, her eyes wide with alarm. "Evan!" He groaned and pushed with both hands, trying to sit up. The dizziness, the spinning, tilting grass forced him to lie back down. "Are they gone?" Oh wait, no, that's him. "Are they gone?" he asked, closing his eyes, willing the dizziness away. "Rick and Tony? I saw them run away," Andy said, kneeling beside him. "Are you okay? Should I call my mom?" He opened his eyes. "Yeah, no, I don't know." "What happened?" she demanded. He raised a hand to his cheek. "Ow!" It was already swollen and too painful to touch. "They beat you up."
Either that or I got hit by a truck, he groaned. A few minutes later, it seemed like hours, he was back on his feet, breathing normally, rubbing his swollen cheek. "I've never been in a fight before," he told Andy, shaking his head. "Never!" "It doesn't look like it was much of a fight," she said, her expression still tight with concern.
The bitch.
He started to laugh, but it made his stomach hurt. "We'll pay them back," Andy said bitterly. "We'll find a way to pay them back, the creeps." "Oh, look! The monster blood." That's how it was written. Evan hurried over to it. The bucket lay on its side. The green gunk had oozed onto the grass, forming a wide, thick puddle. I'll help you get it back in the bucket, Andy said, leaning over to stand the bucket up. Hope it doesn't kill the grass. My dad'll have a cow if it hurts his precious lawn is hurt. It's so heavy, Evan said, groaning as he tried to push the glob into the bucket. It doesn't want to move.
That made no noise.
Come on, Chris.
I heard it.
Let's try picking up handfuls, Andy suggested. Whoa, it doesn't want to come apart, Evan said in surprise. Look, it sticks together.
God.
It's like taffy, Andy said. Ever see them make taffy in those taffy machines?
The stuff just sticks together in one big glob. This isn't taffy, Evan muttered. It's disgusting. Working together, they managed to lift the entire green ball and drop it into the bucket. The stuff made a sickening, sucking sound as it filled the bucket, and both Evan and Andy had trouble pulling their hands out of it. It's so sticky, Andy said, making a disgusted face. And warm, Evan added. I feel like I'm reading porn.
Read it like
Every Goosebumps book.
He finally managed to free his hands from it. It's like he... I'm sorry.
Are we reading?
It's like he's trying to swallow my hands, he said, wiping his hands on his t-shirt, sucking them in. Take it home, Andy said. She looked up to the house to see her mother motioning to her from the front window. Uh-oh, dinner time. I've got to go. Her eyes stopped at a swollen cheek. Wait till your aunt sees you. She probably won't even notice, Evan said glumly. He picked up the...
not blind.
I was going to say that. Good one, Chris.
Beat you to it.
Womp womp. He picked up the bucket by the handle. What are we going to do with this stuff? We'll take it back to the toy store tomorrow, Andy replied, taking long strides across the lawn to the house. Huh? That's what we'll do. We'll simply take it back.
What didn't you understand?
You dumb fuck.
Alright. Evan didn't think it was such a hot idea, but he didn't have the strength to argue about it now. He watched Andy disappear into the house. Then he headed slowly back to Catherine's, his head throbbing, his stomach aching. Creeping along the wall of the house, he slipped into the garage to the side door to hide the bucket of monster blood. Sliding it behind an overturned wheelbarrow, he realized that the bucket was full to the top.
It's so warm now.
Just like in the book!
Feels like it's alive.
But I gave Andy a big hunk of it, he thought. The bucket had been only 2/3 full. I'll have to find a bigger place to put it, he decided. Tonight. Maybe there's a box or something in the basement. He crept into the house, determined to clean himself up before seeing Catherine. She was still busy in the kitchen, he saw, leaning over the stove, putting the last touches on dinner. He tiptoed up the stairs and washed up. Unable to do much about his swollen red cheek, he changed into a clean pair of baggy shorts and a fresh t-shirt and carefully brushed his hair, as if that would make a fucking difference.
She'll never notice my black eye if my hair's straight.
As they sat down at the dining room table, Catherine's eyes fell on Evan's swollen cheek. You been in a fight? She asked, squinting suspiciously at him.
She's deaf.
You're a little roughneck, aren't you? Just like your father. Chicken was always getting into scrapes, always picking on boys twice his size.
I wasn't exactly picking on them, Evan muttered, spearing a chunk of beef from his stew with his fucking fork. All through dinner, Catherine stared at his swollen cheek, but she didn't say another word. She doesn't care if I'm hurt or not, Evan thought miserably. She really doesn't care. She didn't even ask if it hurts.
Life is so hard.
In a way, he was grateful. Like a little dick. He didn't need her getting all upset, making a fuss because he was in a fight, maybe calling his parents in Atlanta and telling them. Well, she couldn't call his parents. She couldn't use the phone since she couldn't hear.
God.
Guys, remember?
Is that what the book says?
She's deaf, yes.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
exactly what the book says.
She could call and then just yell into it and hang up.
Okay, Evan might be enough. Evan downed his big plate of beef stew. It was pretty good, except for the vegetables, because vegetables are gross. The silence seemed so loud. Ironic. He began thinking about his problem, the monster blood. Should he tell Catherine about it? He could write down the whole problem on a yellow pad and hand it to her to read. It would feel so good to tell someone, to have an adult take over the problem and handle it. But not his Aunt Catherine, he decided. She was too weird. She wouldn't understand.
I'm
she
sorry,
would.
what's the problem at this point?
She wouldn't know what to do.
Can't he just put it in the garbage?
The
like,
the
what's
monster
the problem?
Blood. The monster blood.
Then the can
Put
will
it in the
become
garbage.
a monster.
Who cares? It's in the garbage. It's not your problem.
Well, that's how the garbage pail kids happen.
And she wouldn't care. That's how that page ended.
How sad.
Hang on, I'm just gonna. Oh, here, you just do these two.
Okay. Andy was right. They had to carry the stuff back to the toy store. Give it back. Just get rid of it. Like in the garbage, like I just said. But in the meantime, he had to find something to keep it in. Stop doing that. Evan waited in his room until he heard Catherine go to bed, a little after 10 o'clock. Then he crept down the stairs and headed out to the garage. It was a cool, clear night. Crickets sent up a relentless curtain of noise. The black sky glittered with tiny specks of stars. He's getting very poetic.
Really
That
super
is so
yeah.
cool and clear.
The round beam of light from the flashlight in his hand darted across the driveway, leading Evan to the dark garage. As he entered, something scuttled across the floor near the back wall. Sorry, there's too much spit in my mouth. Pardon me. Maybe it was just a dead leaf blown by the wind when I opened the door, he thought hopefully. He moved the flashlight unsteadily, beaming it into the overturned wheelbarrow. Then the light darted across the garage ceiling as he bent down, reached behind the wheelbarrow, and pulled out the bucket of monster blood. He moved the light to the center of the bucket and gasped. The green substance was quivering up over the top.
Don't look at me like that.
I'll look at you however I want. It's growing much faster than before, he thought. I've got to find something bigger to hide it in, just for tonight. The bucket was too heavy to carry with one hand. Tucking the flashlight into his armpit, he gripped the bucket handle with both hands and hoisted the bucket off the floor. Struggling to keep from spilling it, he made his way into the dark house. He paused at the door to the basement steps, silently setting the heavy bucket down on the linoleum floor. He clicked the light switch on the wall. Somewhere downstairs, a dim light flickered on, casting a wash of pale yellow light over the concrete floor. There's got to be something to put this stuff in down here, Evan thought. Hoisting up the bucket, he made his way, slowly, carefully down the steep, dark stairway, leaning his shoulder against the wall to steady himself. Waiting for his eyes to adjust to the pale light, he saw that the basement was one large room, low-ceilinged and damp. It was cluttered with cartons, stacks of old newspapers and magazines, and old furniture and appliances covered in stained, yellowed bed sheets.
You got a Bekah page.
RL, they're called boxes, you dumb fuck.
Something brushed his face as he stepped away from the stairs. He uttered a silent cry and, dropping the bucket, raised his hands to swipe at the thick cobwebs that seemed to reach out for him.
I hope a spider doesn't touch the monster blood.
Oh no.
Swipe at the thick cobwebs reach out for him. They clung to his skin, dry and scratchy, as he frantically pulled at them. He suddenly realized it wasn't the web that was moving against his cheek. It was a spider.
Uh-oh.
With a sharp intake of breath, he brushed it away. But even after he saw the insect scuttle across the floor, he could still feel its prickly feet moving on his face. Moving quickly away from the wall, his heart pounding now, his eyes searching the open wooden shelves hidden in shadow against the far wall. He stumbled over something on the floor. Oh! He fell head first over it, throwing his hands forward to break his fall. It's not head first, you dumb fuck. A human body! Someone lying there under him. What? No. Calm down, Evan. Calm down, he instructed himself. He pulled himself shakily to his feet.
It's gotta be a corpse!
It was a dressmaker's dummy he had stumbled over. Probably a model of Catherine when she was younger. He rolled it out of the way and his eyes searched the It was a dressmaker's dummy.
Oh.
He rolled it out of the way as his eyes searched the shadowy room for a container to store the monster blood. What was that long, low object in front of the work table? Moving closer, he saw that it was an old bathtub, the inside stained and peeling.
He's an idiot.
Who puts a bathtub in their garage?
Is he in the basement or the garage?
He's in the basement.
Oh. I thought he was in the garage.
I don't know.
I'm not paying attention.
It's big enough, he realized, and quickly decided to store the green gunk inside it. With a loud groan, he hoisted the bucket onto the side of the old tub. His stomach...
No, it'll go down the drain and get in all the water systems.
Oh no!
Like the Lamprey movie.
His stomach...
That was great.
Stomach muscles were still sore from the punch he had taken, and the pain shot through his body. He waited for the aching to fade, then tilted the bucket. The thick green substance rolled out of the bucket and hit the tub with a sickening soft plop. Ugh. Evan set the bucket aside and stared down at the monster blood, watching it ooze, spreading thickly over the bottom of the bathtub. Ugh. To his surprise, the tub appeared nearly half full. How fast was this stuff growing? He was leaning over the tub, about to make his way back upstairs when he heard the cat screech. Startled, he let go of the side of the tub just as Sarah Beth leapt onto his back. Evan didn't have time to cry out as he toppled forward over the edge of the tub and into the thick green gunk.
So is he gonna be a monster now?
I don't know.
Wait, where? Oh, there I am.
Chapter 19.
Chapter 19. Evan landed hard on his elbows, but the thick monster blood softened the fall. He heard the cat screech and pad away. He sank into the ooze, his arms and legs flailing, trying to lift himself away. But the...
Everyone, fine. It's fine. I'm scared because of the monster blood.
But the sticky substance was sucking him down, pulling him with a surprising force. His whole body seemed to be held by it, stuck as if in cement. And now it was quivering up, bubbling silently, rising up to his face. I'm going to suffocate, he realized. It's trying to choke me. The warmth of it spread across his body, invaded his chest, his legs, his throat. I can't move. I'm stuck. It's trying to choke me. No! He pulled his head up just as the green gunk began to cover his face. This is a short chapter.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if it's another stupid dream.
Oh shit, did
Yeah,
you
go
not
to
want to
her.
read anymore?
I forgot.
Just
Okay.
skipping Kelly.
I forgot.
You hate me.
Sorry, I love you.
Make some farts, please.
These farts are for you, Kelly.
Oh, thank you. It's so touching.
Friendship.
La 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 la. Then he struggled to twist his body, to twist himself around in it. With great effort, panting loudly. Hoarse cries escaping his open lips. He pulled himself up into a sitting position.
Horse
Like a
cries.
horse.
Like a horse.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a horse shirt, you guys.
You are.
So you said a horse shirt.
Well, anything could be a horse
There's
shirt
whole
if I was
cut-
skanking it.
There's holes cut out where my boobs are.
Isn't that the fashion? The green substance rose up even higher, as if it were reaching up to him, reaching to drag him back down into it. Evan gripped the side of the tub with both hands, held onto it tightly, and began to force himself up. Up from the clinging, pulling ooze. Up from the strange force that seemed to be drawing him back with renewed power. Up. No! He managed to scream as the warm, green ooze slid over his shoulders. No! It was gripping his shoulders now, sliding around his neck, sucking him down, pulling him back into its sticky depths.
Ew.
Down. It's got me, he realized. It's got me now.
I'm tired of touching it. It's really warm now.
Chapter 20.
My
Ew.
fingers smell weird.
I know.
No! Evan screamed as the green gunk bubbled up to his neck, pulling him down. No! Try again.
You already
Up.
said that like 3
Try
times.
again.
No.
Up. Yes. Gripping the sides of the tub, he was moving upward, pulling himself, hoisting himself, straining with all of his strength. Yes.
I don't like
Yes.
watching you do
He
that.
was beating it.
He was beating it.
As written. He was
This
stronger
book
than
is
it
boring.
was. One more tug and he would be free. With a relieved sigh,
Puberty?
he dropped over the side of the tub onto the cool basement floor and lay there, pressed against the damp concrete, waiting to catch his breath. When he looked up, Sarah Beth stood a few feet away, that dumb fucking cat, her head cocked to one side, her yellow eyes peering into his, an expression of supreme satisfaction on her dark feline face. Okay, so he's really good at writing cats.
Oh,
I
God.
haven't touched it anymore.
The next morning, after a fitful, restless sleep, Evan brought
That's always what it looks like after Jonathan's done with it.
I'm so sorry.
Evan brought the pad of yellow lined paper and a marker to the breakfast table. Well, well, Catherine greeted him, placing a bowl of shredded wheat in front of him. You thought things looked something the cat dragged in? She laughed, shaking her head. Don't mention cat to me, Evan muttered. He shoved the bowl of cereal aside and pointed to the pad in his hand. Don't let your cereal get soggy, Catherine scolded, reaching to push the bowl back to him. You get more of the vitamin that way, and it good roughage. I don't care about your stupid roughage, Evan said moodily, knowing she couldn't hear him because she's deaf. He pointed to the pad again and then began to write, scribbling quickly in big black letters. His writing caught her interest. She moved around to the table and stood beside him, her eyes on the pad as he wrote his desperate message. I have a problem, he wrote. I need your help. The bathtub downstairs is overflowing with green monster blood, and I can't stop it. It's all caps, guys. He put down the marker and held the pad up closer to her face.
Has he not learned lowercase letters yet?
No.
Probably not. He's probably a dumb kid.
Looking up at her from the chair, seeing her pale face in the morning sunlight as she leaned... Wait, what time is anything happening? Morning?
This is the next morning.
Oh, you said the next morning. I wasn't listening. Seeing her pale face in the morning sunlight as she leaned over him in her gray flannel bathrobe, Catherine suddenly looked very old to him. Only her eyes, those vibrant blue eyes running quickly over his words, seemed youthful and alive. Her lips were pursed tightly in concentration as she read what he had written. Then, as Evan stared eagerly up at her, her mouth spread into a wide smile. She tossed back her head and laughed. Completely bewildered by her reaction, Evan slid his chair back and jumped up. She rested a hand on his shoulder and gave him a playful shove. Don't kid an old woman, she exclaimed, shaking her head. She turned and headed back to her side of the table. I thought you were serious. I guess you're not like your father at all. He never played any dumb jokes or tricks. Chicken was always such a serious boy. Chicken?
Chicken?
Yeah, that's she called him that in the last chapter.
I didn't pay attention to that either. I don't care about chicken, Evan shouted, losing control, and tossed the pad angrily onto the breakfast table. His aunt burst out laughing. She didn't seem to notice that Evan was glaring at her in frustration. His hands tightened into fists at his sides. Monster blood, what imagination! She wiped tears of laughter from her eyes with her fingers. Then suddenly, her expression turned serious. She grabbed his earlobe and squeezed it.
Ow.
Ouch.
Jesus.
Fucking cunt.
Harsh bitch.
I don't want to touch it anymore. Keep it over there.
I
warm.
I warned you, she whispered. I warned you to be careful. Ow!
Does she know?
Because she's a witch. So
I think she knows everything.
Yeah, she knows.
When he cried out in pain, she let go of his ear, her eyes glowing like blue jewels. I've got to get out of here, Evan thought, rubbing his tender earlobe. He turned and strode
He's so
quickly
tender.
from the kitchen and up to his room. I knew she wouldn't be any help, he thought bitterly. She's just a crazy old lady who's deaf.
You play with powers you cannot possibly understand.
I should pull her down to the basement and show her the disgusting stuff, he thought, angrily tossing the clothes he had worn yesterday
Yeah.
onto the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Duh.
like duh.
You should do that.
That is the
That's
thing
a
that you
good
should
idea.
do.
But what's the point? She'd probably laugh at that, too. She isn't going to help me. He had only one person he could rely on, he knew. Andy. He called her, punching in her number with trembling fingers. Hi. You're right, he said, not giving her a chance to say anything. We have to take the stuff back to the store. If we can carry it, Andy replied, sounding worried. That hunk of monster blood you gave me, it outgrew the coffee can. I put it in my parents' ice bucket, but it's outgrowing that.
Ice bucket.
It's like a goldfish. It's growing to whatever container it's in.
It's yeah.
How about a plastic
Goldfish
garbage
blood.
bag? Evan suggested. You know, one of the really big lawn bags. We could probably carry it in a couple of those.
It's worth a try, Andy said. This stuff is so disgusting. It's
Andy's
making
a
all
girl,
these
by the
sick
way.
noises, and it's really
She's got a
sticky.
deep voice.
Like it said deep voice on the page, so we just went with it. For those
Literally.
readers at home and for our guest that hasn't been following along.
Nope.
No idea what the fuck is going on.
Tell me about it, Evan replied gloomily, as if he said anything a different way, remembering the night before. I took a swim in it. Huh?
I took a
You
swim
can
in it.
explain later, she said impatiently. The toy store opens at 10, I think. I can meet you on the corner in 20 minutes. Good deal. Evan hung up the phone and headed to the garage to get a plastic lawn bag. Andy showed up with her plastic bag wrapped around the handlebars of her BMX bike. Once again, Evan had to go along beside her on foot. His plastic bag was bulging and so heavy he had to drag it over the sidewalk. He couldn't lift it. The tub was nearly full to the top, he told Andy, groaning as he struggled to pull the bag over the curb. I'm afraid it's going to burst out of this bag. Only 2 blocks to go, she said, trying to sound reassuring. A car rolled by slowly. The driver, a teenager with long black hair, the worst kind of teenager, stuck his head out the window, grinning. What's in the bag? A dead body?
Yeah.
Just garbage, Evan told him. That's for sure, Andy muttered as the car rolled away. Several people stopped to stare at them as they entered the town. Hi, Mrs. Winslow, Andy called to a friend of her mother's. Mrs. Winslow waved, then gave Andy a curious stare and headed into the grocery. Andy climbed off her bike and walked it. Evan continued to drag his bulging bag behind him. They made their way to the next block, then started to cross the street to the toy store, when they were hit by a car. But they both stopped short in the middle of the street and gaped in shock. The door and the window of the store were boarded up, and a small hand-printed sign tacked to the top of the door read, "Out of business."
Oh no! Chapter 21.
Yes.
Desperate to get rid of the disgusting contents of the garbage bags, Evan pounded on the door anyway. Come on, somebody! Somebody open up! No reply. He pounded with both fists.
Damn.
Silence. Finally, Andy had to pull him away when his fists were bleeding. The store is closed, a young woman called from across the street. It closed a few days ago. See, it's all boarded up and everything.
Was it ever even there?
Very helpful, Evan muttered under his breath.
Evan's a dick.
He slammed his hand angrily against the door and broke a couple fingers. Evan, stop. You'll hurt yourself, Andy warned. Now what? Evan demanded. Got any more fantastic ideas, Andy? She shrugged. It's your turn to come up with something brilliant.
Yeah, Evan.
Fight for it.
Here, you get this, and I get this. Evan sighed miserably.
I'm not good at this.
Maybe I could give it to Catherine and tell her it's beef.
Beef?
Beef? You want to eat it? Then she'd chop it up with that knife she's always carrying around to stab people with. I don't think you're thinking too clearly right now, Andy said, putting a sympathetic hand on his shoulder, creepily. They both stared down at the garbage bags. They appeared to be moving, expanding and contracting, as if the green globs inside were breathing. Let's go back to Catherine's, Evan said, his voice trembling. Maybe we'll think of something on the way. Somehow they managed to drag the monster blood, capitalized for copyright, back to Catherine's house. The sun had gotten high in the sky. It was noon. As they headed to the backyard, Evan was drenched with sweat because he was terribly out of shape. His arms ached. His head throbbed. Now what? He asked weakly, letting go of the bulging lawn bag with his weak little piddly arms. Andy leaned her bike against the side of the garage. She pointed to the big aluminium trash can next to the garage door. How about that? It looks pretty sturdy. She walked over to it to investigate. And look, the lid clamps down. Okay, Evan agreed, wiping his forehead with the sleeve of his disgustingly sweaty t-shirt. Andy pulled off the lid of the big can. Then she dumped in the contents of her bag.
Where am I at?
It touched the table!
Where am I at?
You're there.
Okay. It hit the bottom with a sick, squishy sound. Then she hurried to help Evan. It's so heavy, Evan groaned, struggling to pull the bag up. We can do it, Andy insisted. Working together, they managed to slide the monster blood from the plastic bag. It rolled out like a tidal wave, sloshing noisily against the sides of the can, raising up as if trying to escape. With a loud sigh of relief, Evan slammed the metal lid down on top of it and clamped the handles down. "Whoa!" Andy cried. They both stared at the can for a long moment, as if expecting it to explode or burst apart. "Now what?" Evan asked, his features tight with fear. Before Andy could reply, they saw Catherine step out of the kitchen door. Her eyes searched the backyard until she spotted them. "Evan, good news!" she called. Glancing back at the trash can, Evan and Andy came hurrying over. Catherine was holding a yellow piece of paper in her hand. A telegram.
What?
Who still uses telegrams?
It's 1954.
"Your mother is coming to pick you up this afternoon," Catherine said, a wide smile on her face.
You're singing telegram.
"I think Catherine is glad to get rid of me," was Evan's first thought.
What a dick.
And then, dismissing that thought, he leapt up and whooped for joy. Whoop! It was the best news he'd ever received.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
"I'm out of here," he exclaimed after his aunt had returned to the house. "I'm out of here. I can't wait." Andy didn't appear to share his joy.
Yeah.
"You're leaving your aunt a nice little surprise over there," she said, pointing to the trash can.
Seriously.
"I don't care. I'm out of here," Evan repeated, raising his hand for Andy to slap him a high five. She didn't cooperate.
Evan is an asshole.
Yep. Don't you think we have to tell someone about the monster blood or do something about it before you leave? But Evan was too excited to think about that now. "Hey, Trigger," he called, running to the dog's pen at the back of the yard. "Trigger, we're going home, boy." Evan pulled open the gate and gasped.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit!
Chapter 22. Trigger! The dog that came bounding toward him looked like Trigger, but the Cocker Spaniel was the size of a pony.
So big, but not that
He
big.
had doubled in size since the day before. No! Evan had to hit the dirt as Trigger excitedly tried to jump on him. Hey, wait! Before Evan could get up, Trigger began barking ferociously. The huge dog was already past the gate and thundering across the backyard toward the street. "I don't believe it," Andy cried, raising her hands to her face, staring in shock as the enormous creature bounded around the side of the house and out of sight. "He's so big. We've got to stop him. He might hurt someone," Evan cried.
Almost sounded like Patrick Warburton.
That's what I'm trying to do. Trigger, come back! Still off balance. Because of his inner ear infection, Evan started to run, calling frantically. But he stumbled over Andy's bike and fell onto the trash can. This is a short chapter.
Sorry.
"No!" Andy shrieked, looking on helplessly as the metal can toppled over. With Evan sprawled on top of it, the can hit the driveway with a loud clang. The lid popped off and rolled away. The green gunk poured out. It oozed away from the can, then stopped and appeared to stand up, quivering, making loud sucking sounds. It righted itself, pulling itself up tall. As the two kids stared in silent horror, the quivering green mass appeared to come to life, like a newly born creature pulling itself up, stretching, looking around. Then, with a loud sucking sound, it arched toward Evan, who was still sprawled on the toppled can. "Get up, Evan!" Andy cried. "Get up! It's gonna roll right over you!"
That was short. No! Evan uttered an animal cry, a sound he had never made before, and rolled away as the quivering green ball bounced toward him. "Run, Evan!" Andy screamed. She grabbed his hand and pulled him to his feet. "It's alive!" she cried. "Run!" The monster blood heaved itself against the garage wall. It seemed to stick there for a brief second. Then it peeled off and came bouncing toward them with surprising speed. "Help! Help! Somebody please help!" Screaming at the top of their lungs, Evan and Andy took off. Scrambling as fast as he could, his legs weak and rubbery from fear, Evan followed Andy down the driveway toward the front yard. "Help! Oh, please, help us!" Evan's voice was hoarse from screaming. His heart thudded in his chest. His temples throbbed.
Oh God.
Here, keep the gack away from Jonathan because he just finger blasted the shit out of it.
It's so much fun. He see, he turned and he saw that the monster blood was right behind them, picking up speed as it bounced across the yard, making disgusting, squishing noises with each bounce. Plop. 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 It says plop 3 times. Plop. 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 A robin pulling at the robin pulling at the worm in the grass didn't look up in time. The trembling green mass rolled over it.
Oh God!
Cartoon?
The monster blood killed a bird.
Oh my God!
What if it comes out a monster bird?
Oh! Evan moaned, turning back to see that the bird
Pokemon happened.
turning back to see that the bird sucked into the green ball, its wings flapping frantically. The bird uttered a final cry, and then it disappeared inside. Plop.
I wonder how many kids learned about death from this.
Plop. Plop. It says plop 3 times. Plop.
Oh my God!
Plop, plop, plop.
Stop plopping.
The monster blood changed direction. Ooh, still bouncing and quivering and leaving white stains.
White?
Oh,
but
guys.
it's green.
Come on, it's jizz. On the grass like enormous round footsteps.
Come on.
It's alive! Andy screamed, her hands pressed against her cheeks. Oh my God! It's alive! What can we do? What can we do? Evan didn't recognize his own terrified girlish voice. It's catching up! Andy screamed, pulling him by the hand. Run! Gasping loudly, they made their way to the front of the house. Hey, what's happening? A voice called. Huh? Startled by the voice, Evan stopped short. He turned and looked to the sidewalk to see the Bamer twins, matching grins on their beefy, big
Looks like a tongue.
beef faces. My favorite punching bag, one of them said to Evan.
He raised his fist menacingly. They took a few steps towards Evan and Andy. Then their grins faded and their mouths dropped open in horror as the gigantic green mass appeared, heading down the drive, rolling as fast as a bicycle. Look out! Evan screamed. Run! Andy cried. But the two brothers were too startled to move. Their eyes bulging with fear, they threw their hands up as if trying to shield themselves. Plop. 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 The enormous ball of monster blood picked up speed as it bounced forward. Evan shut his eyes as it hit the twins with a deafening smack.
Wait.
It's good Foley work.
Thank you.
Ow! No! Both brothers cried out, flailing their arms, struggling to pull themselves free. Help us! Please, help us! Their bodies twisted and writhed as they struggled, but they were stuck tight. The green gunk oozed over them, covering them completely. Then it pulled them inside with a loud sucking pop. Andy shielded her eyes. Sick, she muttered. Oh, sick. Evan gasped in helpless horror as the Baber brothers finally stopped struggling.
I'm having so much fun with this.
Their arms went limp. Their faces disappeared into the quivering junk.
It's
gunk. Sorry.
So it's the blob.
Yes. The sucking sounds grew louder as the two boys were pulled deeper and deeper inside. Yep, that's not dirty at all. Then the monster blood bounced high, turned, and started back up the drive. Andy and Evan froze, unsure of which way to head. Split up, Evan cried. It can't go after us both, and I hope it goes after you. Andy returned his frightened stare. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Split up! Split up! Evan repeated shrilly. But, Andy started. Before she could say anything, the front door of the house burst open and Catherine stepped out into the stoop.
And said, Expelliarmus!
Hey! What are you kids doing? What's that? She cried, gripping the screen door, her eyes filling with horror. Picking up speed, the giant ball bounded toward the stoop. Catherine tossed up her hands in fright. She stood frozen for a long moment, as if trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Then, leaving the front door wide open, she spun around and fled into the house. Plop. Plop. The monster blood hesitated at the front stoop.
It hesitated.
Should I go in? Invited inside.
Ah.
Stop giving it to me.
I don't want it.
Why don't you want it?
I don't want to touch it.
It's fun. It's really warm
Monster
now.
blood. Ew. It's so creepy when it's warm.
It bounced in place once, twice, 3 times a lady, as if considering what to do next. Evan and Andy gaped in horror from across the lawn, trying to catch their breath.
Why did I play with this when I was little?
A wave of nausea, because you're disgusting. A wave of nausea
Gross.
swept over Evan as he saw the Bamer twins, still visible, deep within the quivering glob, faceless prisoners bouncing inside it. Then
Why did it take their faces off?
it took their faces off. It was Face Off. Guys, we watched Face Off. We watched Face
That
Off.
movie's amazing.
We should talk about that later. Then suddenly, the monster blood bounced high and hurtled up the stairs of the stoop. No! Evan screamed as it squeezed through the open doorway and disappeared into the house. From the middle of the yard, Andy and Evan heard Catherine's blood-curdling scream. It's got Aunt Catherine, Evan said weakly. Damn.
Bop, 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 bop.
Okay. These chapters are incredibly short, and
take
we're
this
gonna finish this book next time.
All right.
Because it's
Chapter
there's
24.
barely anything left.
Evan reached the house first. He had run so fast. His lungs felt as if they were about to burst. What are you gonna do? Andy called, following close behind. I don't know, Evan replied. He grabbed onto the screen door and propelled himself into the house. Aunt Catherine! He screamed, bursting into the living room. The enormous glob filled the center of the small room. The Bamer twins were outlined at its side as it bounced and quivered, oozing over the carpet, leaving its sticky footprints in its path. It took Evan a few seconds to see his aunt. The bouncing hunk of monster blood had backed her against the fireplace. Aunt Catherine, run! Evan cried, but even he could see that she had nowhere to run. Get out of here. Get out of here, kids, Catherine cried, her voice shrill and trembling, suddenly sounding very old.
Yeah. Take us home, Bekah.
But Aunt Catherine, get out of here now, the old woman insisted, her black hair wild about her head. Her eyes, those blue penetrating eyes, staring hard at the green glob as if willing it away. Evan turned to Andy, uncertain of what to do. Andy's hands tugged at the sides of her hair, her eyes wide with growing fear as the seething green glob made its way steadily closer to Evan's aunt. Get out, Catherine repeated shrilly. Save your lives. I made this thing. What? Now I must die for it.
What?
Evan gasped. What? Had he heard correctly what his aunt just said? The words repeated in his mind, clear now, so clear and so frightening.
Oh, is the monster
I made this thing, now I must die for it. Oh, you just said that.
Chapter 25. No! Gaping in horror as a sickening glob. Oh, hang on.
The Sickening Glob. It's a good band name.
Sickening glob. Here you go.
Get
rid of it.
I hate touching the gack.
Well, but someone's
I
got
have
to.
yarn on my hands.
You what?
I have yarn on my hands.
Chris, you gotta do it.
You can't multitask.
Chris, you gotta do it.
Alright, fine. No, leave it in the thing, because that's how you
I
make the
almost
fart
just said
noises.
I only have one hand. But I do have two.
Bekah lost her hand in a tragic yarning accident.
Alright, here we go.
Ready? Gaping in horror as the sickening glob of monster blood pushed towards his aunt. Evan felt the room tilt and begin to spin. He gripped the back of Catherine's armchair as pictures flooded in his mind. He saw the strange bone pendant Catherine always wore around her neck, like a witch would do. The mysterious books that line the walls of his bedroom that only a witch would have.
And the fact that she said she was a witch about a dozen times.
Sarah Beth, the black cat with the glowing yellow eyes, like the kind of black cat that a witch would own. The black shawl that Catherine always wrapped around her shoulders in the evening. She said she was cold, but really she was a witch. I made this thing. Now I must die for it. Evan saw it all now, and it began to come clear to him. Evan pictured the day he and Andy brought home the can of monster blood from the toy store.
Yeah, didn't she see it?
Catherine had insisted on seeing it.
And she didn't, like, say anything then?
No.
Like, oh yeah, no, I made that.
On studying it, on touching it. He remembered the way she rolled the can around in her hands, examining it so carefully, moving her lips silently as she read the label. What had she been doing? What had she been saying? A thought flashed into Evan's mind. Had she been casting a spell on the can? A spell to make the monster blood grow? A spell to terrify Evan? Because he's the only person that matters, and it's all about Evan.
Yeah, everything's about you, you dick.
But why? She didn't even know Evan. Why did she want to frighten him? To kill him! Be careful, she had called to him after handing the blue can back. Be careful. It was a real warning. In the past.
In the
she
past.
said be careful.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
Yeah. This all happened at the beginning
A
of the book.
warning against her
Hey,
spell.
be careful. It's really dangerous that I made it.
It's really dangerous because of me.
I just put a spell on this to kill you, so
Yeah.
be careful.
Careful.
That makes sense. You did this, Evan shouted in a voice he didn't recognize. The words burst out of him. He had no control over them. You did this. You cast a spell, he repeated, pointing an accusing finger at his aunt. He saw her blue eyes shimmer as they read his lips. Then her eyes filled with tears, tears that overflowed onto her pale cheeks. No, she cried, no. You did something to the can. You did this, Aunt Catherine. Wait, didn't she literally just say,
She literally just said, I made
thing?
this. Yes.
No, she cried, shouting over the sickening grunts and plops of the mountainous ball that nearly hid her from view.
Jesus.
No, Catherine cried. I read ahead, sorry. Her back pressed tightly against the mantelpiece. I didn't do it. She did! And pointed an accusing finger at Andy.
What? What? Oh, come on.
Sound circus come through the headphones. Chapter 26. Andy? Was Aunt Catherine accusing Andy? Evan spun around to confront Andy, but Andy turned too, and Evan realized immediately that his aunt wasn't pointing at Andy. She was pointing past Andy
Sarah
to
Beth.
Sarah Beth.
Sarah Beth, what?
Standing in the doorway
I
to
thought
the
that's what
living
you were
room.
going to say.
The
Oh,
black
I
cat
didn't think
hissed and arched her back, her yellow eyes flaring at Catherine. She didn't. She's the one, Catherine declared, pointing frantically. The enormous glob of green monster blood bounced back, retreated a step as if stung by Catherine's words. Shadows shifted inside the glob as it quivered, catching the light, filtering it through the living room window. Evan stared at the cat, then turned his eyes to Andy. She shrugged, which is a reaction in a situation like this. Her face frozen in horror and bewilderment.
Ugh. Gross. Aunt Catherine is crazy, Evan thought sadly, while all of this horrible shit is happening around him. She's totally lost it. She isn't making any sense. None of this makes sense. She's the one, Catherine repeated. The cat hissed in response. The glob bounced in place. Carrying the unmoving Bamer brothers inside. Oh, look, Evan cried to Andy as the black cat suddenly raised up on its hind legs. Andy gasped. And Andy gasped and squeezed Evan's arm. Her hand was as cold as ice. Willing to sacrifice. Still hissing, the cat grew like a shadow against the wall. It raised its claws, swiping the air. Its eyes closed and it became consumed in darkness. No one moved. The only sounds Evan could hear were the bubbling of the green glob and the pounding of his own heart. That's disgusting, Evan. You should get that checked.
Evan has a glob heart.
Evan, you should really go to the doctor.
Well, he did fall in the monster blood.
That's true.
I just want to make sure the blanket's still in the clothes.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah. All eyes were on the cat as it rose up, stretched, and grew. And as it grew, it changed shape, became human, with shadowy arms and legs in the eerie darkness.
It was his Aunt Billy.
And then the shadow stepped away from the darkness. And Sarah Beth was now a young woman with fiery red hair and
hot?
pale skin and yellow eyes.
Sounds hot.
Super hot. Big old boobs. With the same yellow cat eyes that haunted Evan since he had arrived. The young woman was
never
dressed
liked him.
in a swirling black gown down to her ankles. Prude. You or him? I can't remember which one it went.
Me.
Yeah.
She stood blocking the doorway, staring accusingly at Catherine. You see, she's the one, Catherine said quietly now. The next words were intended only for Sarah Beth. Your spell over me is broken. I will do no more work for you.
What? Who said that?
Catherine said it to Sarah Beth.
What?
Stop globbing. It's not making globby sounds.
Well, the glob's still there.
It's still there. It's still
not
bouncing around.
describing
All
it.
right, fine. I'll wait till it describes.
Sarah Beth, wait, till what?
Till it describes the glob.
Sarah Beth tossed her red hair behind a black cloaked shoulder and laughed.
Sarah Beth sounds hot.
I'll decide what you will do, Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
No, Catherine insisted. For 20 years you've used me, Sarah Beth.
What?
For 20 years you've imprisoned me here, held me
What?
in your spell. But now I will use this monster blood to escape.
Wait, is she not deaf now?
Sarah Beth was the witch.
No! Sarah Beth laughed again. There is no escape, fool. All of you must die now. All of you.
Oh my God, Sarah Beth was the witch, I bet, guys.
How do you use
Chapter
monster blood to
27.
escape? Can't wait to find out.
All of you must die, Sarah Beth repeated. Her smile revealed that she
redundant.
enjoyed saying those words.
I love telling
Such
people
great-
they're gonna die.
Such great writing. Catherine turned to Evan, her eyes reflecting her fear.
20 years ago, I thought she was my friend. I was all alone here because no one liked me because I was deaf. I thought I could trust her, but she cast a spell on
I
me.
bet she made her deaf.
And then another. Her dark magic made me deaf.
I knew it!
She refused to let me lip read or learn to sign. That was one way she kept me her prisoner.
I don't know. It sounded like she was doing all right beforehand. She was like chopping meat
She
all the
still
time.
knew how to lip read.
Yeah.
But I'm Catherine,
Whose
Evan started.
lips has she been practicing on if her only friend's a cat?
His lips have
Well,
she
the
been
cat's
practicing on? Ew, Bekah.
Shut up!
She raised a finger to her lips to silence him.
Sarah Beth forced me to cast the spell on the can of monster blood. She warned me that I was allowed no guests, you see.
Oh, so she is a
I was her
witch?
slave, hot, her personal servant for all these years.
She's saying hot?
Yeah.
She's old.
She wanted me all to herself to do her evil bidding.
Yeah, but the way she was described was
Pretty
very
hot.
attractive.
Yeah. No, Sarah, I mean, Aunt Catherine's hot. I
Yeah.
mean, no.
They're both
Do you
hot.
think Aunt Catherine's hot?
Guys, I'm just drunk.
When you arrived,
Catherine continued, her back still pressed against the fireplace mantel.
she first decided to scare you away, but that was impossible.
Yeah, because your mom. There you go. Sorry, guys, I'm eating a cherry. No. You had nowhere to go. Then she became desperate to get you out of the way. She was terrified that you would learn her secret, that you would somehow free me of her spell. So Sarah Beth decided that you had to die.
You overestimated how much this kid cares about you.
Catherine's eyes fell. Yes. She sighed. I'm so sorry, Evan. I had no choice, no will of my own. She turned her eyes to Sarah Beth. But no more, no more, no more, as I plunge myself into this ghastly creation, Sarah Beth. I will end your spell. I will end your hold over me.
This
Why?
ghastly creation.
The children will still die, Sarah Beth said quietly and coldly, like a witch. What? Catherine. Catherine's eyes. What? Catherine asked because she's deaf. Catherine's eyes filled with fury. I will be gone, Sarah Beth. You can let the children go. You have no reason to do them harm. They know too much, Sarah Beth replied softly, crossing her slender arms in front of her, her yellow eyes aglow.
Slender arms.
Yeah,
I'm into
alright.
this.
We've got to get out of here, Evan whispered to Andy, staring at the seething green glob. But how? Andy whispered back. Sarah Beth is blocking the doorway. Evan's eyes darted around the small room, searching for an escape route. Nothing. Sarah Beth.
It is monster blood. It flew out of my hands.
Sarah Beth raised one hand and drew it toward her slowly, as if summoning the green glob. Oh. It quivered once, twice, 3 times a lady, then moved obediently in the direction of her hand. I had to continue the joke from last time.
That was from last time?
I said that before.
Oh.
I think.
I don't remember.
Shut up, guys.
You should.
No, Sarah Beth, stop, Catherine pleaded. Ignoring Catherine, Sarah Beth gestured with her hand again. The green gunk bubbled and rolled forward. Kill the children, Sarah Beth commanded.
Oh my god.
The enormous glob picked up speed as it rolled across the carpet toward Evan and Andy. Let's rush the door, Evan suggested to Andy as they backed up away from the rolling monster blood. She'll never let us pass, Andy cried. Kill the children, Sarah Beth repeated, raising both hands high above her head.
You know, I've said that for
Maybe-
years and no one's taken me seriously.
Maybe one of us can get by her, Evan cried. It's too late, Andy shrieked. I want to know why they're talking so much and not just fucking
Just
running.
run. Just run away.
Maybe they're in a Fast and the Furious movie.
I get that joke. The bouncing, pulsating green glob was just a few feet away. We're going to be sucked in, Evan screamed. Kill the children, Sarah Beth screamed triumphantly. Do they stand around and talk a lot?
Chapter 28.
I mean, yeah.
The glob rolled forward. Evan sighed, because he had all the time in the world. Feeling all hope
Sure
sink.
wish I was about to die.
Frozen in place, he felt as if he weighed 1,000 pounds. Maybe because he was growing bigger. Andy grabbed his hand. They both closed their eyes and held their breath and waited for the impact. To their surprise, the monster blood emitted a deafening roar.
Pretty good, guys. Yeah.
Huh? Evan opened his eyes. Andy, he saw, was staring at the doorway beyond Sarah Beth. The monster
dog.
blood hadn't roared.
Yeah.
Trigger!
Trigger!
Evan cried. The huge dog
all
bounded
got so
into the
excited.
doorway, its deafening bark echoing off the low ceiling. Ahem. Sarah Beth tried to get out of the dog's way, but she was too late, because as everyone knows, dogs hate cats. That's not what's written, but it sounds like it could be.
Yeah.
Thrilled to see Evan, Trigger enthusiastically leapt at Sarah Beth and pushed her from behind. Under the weight of gigantic paws, Sarah Beth had staggered forward,
Into the monster
forward, raising her hands as she collided with the monster blood.
Oh, shit.
Do you think those other kids are dead?
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy.
Definitely. Where am I? Oh, I see. There was... Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
There was a wet smack. Sarah Beth hit the surface of the green glob. Then, oh god, then loud, disgusting sucking noises. Her hand, her hands hit first. They disappeared quickly, and then Sarah Beth was up to her elbows. And then the glob seemed to give a hard tug, and her body hit the surface. Then her face was pulled in, covered over. Sarah Beth never uttered a sound as she was pulled inside.
The quiet ones are even more good.
Yeah. Whimpering with joy, completely unaware of what he had done because he's a stupid fucking dog, the dog loped into the room and headed for Evan. Down, boy, down! Evan cried as Trigger happily leapt at him, and as the dog jumped, he began to shrink. Trigger! Evan called in astonishment, reaching out to hold the dog. Trigger didn't seem to notice that he was changing. He licked Evan's face as Evan held on tightly. In seconds, Trigger was back to normal Cocker Spaniel size. Look, the glob is shrinking too, Andy cried, squeezing Evan's shoulder. Evan turned to see that the green glob was rapidly growing smaller.
Look at that little bubble in the gack.
Ew. Ew. Oh, it went away.
Pop it.
It's gross.
As it shrunk, the Bamer brothers fell to the floor. They
Oh,
didn't
they're not
move.
dead.
Dead.
They lay face down in a crumpled heap. Their open eyes stared lifelessly.
Oh my God.
They didn't appear to be breathing. Don't read over my shoulder.
Oh my god.
They were dead. Just kidding. One blinked.
Ah.
Then one blinked. The other blinked. Their mouths opened and closed. 'Cause they're fish.
You should win a Pulitzer.
Oh, one of them uttered a long, low groan. Then, pulling themselves up slowly, they both looked around the room, dazed. The trapped robin that I forgot about had also fallen to the floor.
Wait, when did that happen?
It fell
Did it
into
roll
the
over a
blob.
bird or something?
Yeah.
I don't
Did it roll
remember
over one?
that. I'm drunk most of the time.
I
Chirping
remember it.
furiously, it flapped its wings wildly and fluttered about the room in a panic until it found the open living room window and sailed out. Andy held on to Evan as they stared at the monster blood, expecting Sarah Beth to reappear too. But Sarah Beth was gone. Vanished. The monster blood, shrunk to its original size, lay lifeless, inert, a dull green spot on the carpet, no bigger than a tennis ball. The Bamer brothers stood up uncertainly, their eyes still reflecting terror and confusion. They stretched as if testing their arms and legs, seeing if their muscles still worked. Then they scrambled out of the house, slamming the screen door behind them. "It's over," Catherine said softly, moving forward to put an arm around Evan and Andy. "Sarah Beth is gone," Evan said, holding Trigger tightly in his arms, still staring at the tiny wedge of monster blood on the floor. "And I can hear!" Catherine said jubilantly.
Oh my
hugging
God!
them both. Sarah Beth and her spells are gone for good. But as she said this, the screen door swung open and a shadowy figure stepped into the living room doorway.
I bet it's his mom.
Chapter 29. Mom! Evan cried. He set down Trigger and hurried to greet her, throwing his arms around her in a tight hug.
know R.L. Stine so well at this point.
What on earth is going on here? Mrs. Rost asked. Hold on. What on earth is going on here? Mrs. Rost asked. Why did those two boys come bursting out like that? They look scared to death. So she's not asking about the giant blob?
There's
She's
no
more
giant-
worried about...
Tennis ball.
There's no
Okay.
giant blob. It shrunk.
It's a little hard to explain, Evan told her. I'm so glad to see you. Trigger was glad, too. When he finally had finished jumping up and down and whimpering, Catherine led Evan's mom to the kitchen. I'll make some tea, she said. I have a rather long story to tell you. Now that she sounded normal because she
The
could
mom
hear.
or Catherine.
Catherine.
Ah,
I hope it isn't too long,
do that voice
Mrs.
anymore.
Ross said,
Yeah.
glancing back questioningly
why
at
would
Evan.
she tell her that story and she's not going to believe it?
We have a 4 o'clock plane to catch. Mom, I think you'll find this story interesting, Evan said, flashing Andy an amused look, as kids are wont to do. The two women disappeared into the kitchen. Take us home.
All right. Andy and Evan dropped down wearily onto the... let me do that again. Andy and Evan dropped down wearily onto the couch. I guess you're going forever, Andy said. I mean, to Atlanta and everything. I'd like to... write to you, Evan said, suddenly feeling awkward. Yeah? Good, Andy replied, brightening. And my dad has a phone credit card. What the fuck is that?
It's the 90s. Long distance calls
Okay.
costed a shitload back then.
Maybe I could get the number and, you know, call you. Yeah, great, Evan said. Could I ask one small favor? Andy said. Yeah, sure, Evan replied, curious. Well, it's going to sound strange, Andy said reluctantly.
She wants the monster blood.
But can I have the little bit of monster blood that's left?
Oh, snap.
You know, sort of as a memento or something. Sure, okay with me, Evan said. They both turned their eyes to where it had come to rest on the carpet. Hey, Andy cried in surprise. It was gone.
Oh, no. Is that how it ended?
Bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-da-dum. And that ends.
R.L. Stine's
R.L. Stine's
Monster Blood
Monster
of the
Blood.
Goosebumps series, published by Del Rey.
Next up, Say Cheese and Die.
Oh, yeah, no, that's
Which-
a good one. I remember the episode of that on the Goosebumps TV series.
I don't remember that. But I'm excited, though. Here's the thing I'm
It's a
excited
camera
about.
that took pictures and it predicted how people were going to die.
Awesome. Well, don't ruin it. I'm excited about we've got this GAC, and I was just thinking earlier, like, oh, I'm sad that we're gonna finish Monster Blood and then we don't get to use the GAC again. But
Yeah,
guys,
but we used the whoopee cushion,
No.
so that's just the new whoopee cushion.
no, guys. There's a couple of Monster Blood sequels.
What, really?
There's Monster Blood 2, 3, and 4.
Why don't we just go directly to Monster Blood 2?
Because we gotta, we gotta, We gotta go in order.
How about this?
We gotta make it
Listeners-
count.
Listeners, if you want us to go either to Say Cheesin', this is your Choose Your Own Adventure, listeners.
I don't think
Play along with us. You could either say we should go to Say Cheese and Die, which is the next book in the Goosebumps series.
That's what we'll be starting next.
Or you can tell us to immediately go to Monster Blood Part 2. I thought this book was very, very good. So hopefully the quality of the books stays the same.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. Like, when we go to Say Cheese and Die, we'll be like, fuck, this is fun.
I will say the twist at the end of this was like a really big letdown.
The cat was a witch?
Like, just out of the blue. No, the cat was a witch. It's her fault.
And also, they didn't explain anything about Catherine creating the monster blood. She said, I created this. Did she just mean she created the spell on it? So then where the fuck did the monster blood come from?
Well, the monster blood's just a toy.
Yeah.
Like, I think the monster blood is just like gack.
Okay.
The monster blood is gack. And then a
But
witch
she
got some gack
bewitched
and was
it
just like,
into killing people? Why doesn't she just make her put a spell over
Well,
a
it was
knife and
probably
stab
much
the kids in the
louder.
face?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. There's logic.
What would she have
holes.
done to get rid of those kids if they hadn't bought the monster blood?
Who knows? Just killed him? Stabbed him?
Yeah. It was the kids technically saved the day because they did buy the monster blood.
Yeah. The
So-
monster blood's what did him that fucking witch.
Below Grade Level is a Cactus Radio production. You can contact us at podcast@cactusrodeo.com. Subscribe and follow on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, and follow Cactus Rodeo on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more entertainment and updates.